closing questions on Vietnam. Do you wish, from this vantage point, that we had simply never gone in?
Yes.
You do. Christopher, let me ask you what you wish. Between the fall of Vietnam and the fall of the Berlin Wall, I counted them up, and there are at least 9 countries, at least 9, that fell under Soviet domination. Do you feel, as a coffee planter in Cuba and a Trotskyite, any responsibility for the period of misery the people of those countries endured?
Any personal responsibility?
Yes, actually, any personal responsibility. You and the generation of '68, the protesters.
I really think it would be grandiose of me to accept any,
but
I also think...
All right, symbolic.
Morally, no, of course I don't, because I was and
you were right then.
I always was a vocal opponent of that, and I consider the revolution of 1989...
Vocal opponent of what? Of the Soviet Union?
Yes.
What do you regret that you did? Let me ask that. What do you regret that you did in the '60s?
I think that I regret there was a slogan that was painted on the walls of Paris at one point in the great upheaval of May '68, which said, "Take your desires for reality." I think there was a certain hedonistic utopianism around, which, though I tried to...
You grant Bill's point about the self-indulgence.
Oh, I thought I did so except by substituting fornication for masturbation. Thought I'd already clarified that.
All right, fine.
Saying, no, it was going all the way. It wasn't onanism.
And what do you regret that you did?
Well, I regret that I didn't, sooner than we did, come forward with a countdown on the Vietnam War. We were always being told in 68, 69, 70, victory's around the corner. And they tend to say that persuasively. A lot of people were persuaded. I went to Vietnam 3 times and wrote back that it looked good. I was told it looked good.
You regret trusting the government of the United States?
Well, it's not so much the government I trust. It is individual people working their own perspectives. Now, you can call that government if indeed you say, well, he works for the government. But I saw them, and I thought I saw them making individual... I spent a night in a bunker with General Abrams, and he wasn't giving me 2.5 hours talk for the sake of confusing me. This is what he thought. And I haven't seen an awful lot of people, McNamara is the great exception, who've gone around saying during that whole time we were simply feeding American journalists and American surveyors stuff we knew wasn't true.
I think it's greatly to the credit of the United States that the government felt it had to lie to the people about this war from the beginning. My main regret is I didn't do more than I did to help the anti-war movement. It's still, what little I did do is still a great cause of pride to me, but I think, and I'm not searching for common ground in saying this, believe me, but I should have thought that one thing we do perhaps share is a feeling that widespread distrust in the government isn't a bad thing. The fact that there was great disillusionment at that point may have struck you then as being a defeat, but surely, from a conservative point of view, there must have been something salutary about it.
I keep saying...
The presumption is that the state is in the business of aggrandizing its power and ought to be watched. But the presumption, taken to a certain point, blinds you if, in fact, you simply refuse to listen to what is being said and then make your own evaluation. Barry Goldwater went over, then I saw him the day he came back. He's a pretty experienced fellow. And he thought, this was 1967, he thought that the enemy couldn't continue to sustain the casualties it did. Now, that's a reasonable thing to say. You might have been said that, don't be said, there will never be any lack of people who will rise up and volunteer to commit suicide on behalf of a free Vietnam. You'd have been right, but it would have been romantic for me to assume that you were right.